Welcome to Arts Dynamics Talks Summer Edition 2025. I'm Sofie Marin, founder and CEO of Arts Dynamics, and I'm thrilled and excited to bring back these talks every Thursday now between 12 and 1 during the summer, where I will be speaking with leading change makers, thought leaders, gurus, experts within the cultural and creative industries, and in the intersection of creativity, technology, entrepreneurship for impact. And today I've got the great honor. I'm so excited about this talk today because, as you can see in front of you on the screen, for those of you who are with us live or maybe watching now the live stream, you can see the CEO of Epicenter Group, Adrian McDonald. Adrian, welcome to Arts Dynamics Talks.
Thank you, Sofie, and thank you to everyone who's joined. Greetings from the west coast of Sweden. I'm in Fjällbacka.
Yeah,
lovely to be here.
It's such a big moment. I actually had to take a few moments prior to this call just to embrace and to let it sink in where we are. People who've been with us now for a few years actually with Arts Dynamics, they know we started out as a rather humble initiative, actually as a call for help. Even when I had my own production company, I needed to figure out how to monetize, how to produce and promote cultural events internationally, and to make it work financially. And that led into this whole journey of discovering entrepreneurship, digital trends, and really how to utilize the internet to make it work as an independent company owner and DIYer. And here we are now, and we've recently launched also a partnership where we're creating a creative tech cluster with Epicenter. But I would actually first like to start a little bit about you and with you. Adrian, can you tell us a little bit more about you and what led you to also start working with Epicenter?
Yeah, sure. I'm an Australian living out of Sweden. I've been living all over the world, long time in London as well. You could say I've been a corporate entrepreneur my whole life, working in different industries, media, advertising, sports, and technology companies. I have a strong passion for new products and services, new business models. That's generally been sort of the red thread throughout my career. I've worked with companies like Microsoft and now obviously organizations like Epicenter. I was actually a partner of a company called Result for a number of years, advising and helping a lot of scale-ups, a lot of tech founders, mostly in the Nordics, but across Europe too. And through Result, we created Epicenter together with AMF here in Stockholm. And so I've been involved with Epicenter as a co-owner from the early days, and more recently stepped back in after 5 years of running a tech company, an HR tech company, stepped back in now as the CEO earlier this year. So it feels a little bit like coming home to some extent. But yeah, I'm very excited about the next 10 years of our organization and our journey.
Yeah, and so am I. I remember when I moved back home to Stockholm from London, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to find the kind of international vibe, the creative vibe, and the business vibe. And then I found Epicenter, and I remember the feeling of coming home. So you've done an amazing job, I have to say, these past few years to set it up and invite people like myself and to support us on the journey. So, but let's first of all, I mean, from when you started it to where we are today, what would you say have been the biggest changes or developments since day one and where we are in 2025 as we record this?
From an Epicenter standpoint, yeah, I mean, look, we operate at the intersection of one thing that hasn't changed and still remains is this, that we operate for those that don't know, Epicenter is an innovation and growth hub. We operate out of Stockholm, Helsinki, and Oslo. We have a partnership with a great team down in Cape Town as well. We have a partnership with the central bank out of Cairo. And we've been working and collaborating with organizations all around the world. But what we do is we operate obviously physical space, which is what we call an innovation growth hub, and it's the intersection of corporate entrepreneurship and scale-up entrepreneurship. So we have large organizations as members. Many members sit in the buildings, others don't. We have lots of founders and their teams operating out of the hub. And primarily what we offer is obviously one element is space, another part is the knowledge and networks, and then we infuse that with community as well. So we have a lot of events, programs, advisory, a lot of things are happening, playfulness with technology. So those things have stayed consistent. I'd say what has changed is actually one, the needs of our customers and our members have changed. So 10 years ago, if you look at large organizations, they were thinking very much about design thinking, lean startup methodologies, and trying to figure out how can they be more entrepreneurial. Today, it's very much about, wow, what are the skill sets of the organizations as the pendulum swung towards AI, and how are we going to design our organizations for growth, and how are we going to remain competitive. And for scale-up entrepreneurs, it's really about, it's still, the truth is, the challenges are still largely the same. They're still thinking about how do we go to market at lightning speed. But I think they're looking at things of how do they do this more efficiently with technology? How can they gain access to global markets overnight? And certainly, fulfill their dreams. So I would say technology's been sort of the major shift. AI right now obviously is the biggest thing. I think that's been the biggest seismic shift we've seen in the last 10 years. And it's impacting all of our members, from organization and skill set design to speed to market, and actually new revenue and capturing new opportunities.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's very, very exciting. And for our the people who are tuning in to watch now, I also wanted to encourage you, or we wanted to encourage you, to also say hello in the comments. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what you do. And if you have any questions for this conversation today, let us know. And obviously, this is just a starting point. So we will post the replay of this afterwards on YouTube. So you can always tune into that video as well. You might even be watching the replay now or listening to it on Spotify. So this is really the start of hopefully an ongoing conversation with you as a community. And you will notice today also that we will cover a lot about community, because what you've just described now is the power of community. We even have our own R2D2 in a way. There's this little robot wandering around in the house at Epicenter. And I remember the first time I came there, and outside of Epicenter, people always said I was a little bit out there with my thinking, but I came to Epicenter and people were chipping themselves and talking about robots and space and stuff. So I knew I felt at home. It reminded me a lot about of the world of performing arts, which is all about the imagination and creating all these, imaginary worlds. So that's why I really, really do appreciate Epicenter so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, one thing we've learned is that, I mean, if you look at it from a business perspective, and no matter what you're doing, no matter what product or service you've created, I mean, we all have a dream of some kind, and we all want to manifest that dream, and we want others to share in the dream and live it, whether it's like, selling a product or a service, or getting people to join a community, or someone taking more interest in your music, whatever it might be. The pathway to growth is not linear, and sometimes it happens through these unexpected serendipitous collisions of people and minds and ideas, and that's generally what we try to infuse. So there's an element of it's structured to the extent that we create the platform for people and the stage for people to share their stories, and structured in a way that we can bring people together. But then but we don't design sort of the outcomes. We let the great minds of people come together. So the playfulness and bringing people together becomes really important. So that's Epicenter in a nutshell, I would say.
Yeah. And I remember when you and I had a conversation a while back, and we also talked about your own, how you your own background, also, and your relationship with music and with arts, and we talked about family. And I remember one conversation we had in particular, because often in the creative space or within arts and culture, we talk about, how important it is that people get what we're doing and how do we reach new audiences. But you framed it rather differently. It's more like me as a person, me as a father, or, as an individual, how you relate to music and how you relate to art. So I would just love to hear a little bit about your own experiences and what does arts and music, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, it means different things to me, and perhaps at different stages in life. I mean, it goes as far back as my education, and certainly at high school, went to quite a religious school, and we, on one level, we were in the cathedral every week, a few times, singing hymns. So there was music and song in my life every week. Art was a big aspect of it as well, And then I was obviously very interested in history, both modern and ancient history. So I had a sort of this personal interest in sort of connecting the dots between what's happened historically, like what were the events of the time, but then how did that jar and par with sort of the arts of the time as well, and how that created meaning. So yeah, I had some distant personal interest there, but now as a father of 3 daughters, where certainly one of them is very, very interested in music and singing and dancing, and yeah, I'm always on the lookout for how can I help support her and let her fulfill her dreams. But fundamentally, I would say, I guess just through life experience and education, I've come to sort of appreciate the fact that the creative arts play a very vital role in sort of the societal infrastructure or the fabric of our societies. So on one level, if you look at the current climate, it's for the last sort of 10 years, everything's been very politically charged, but and we're talking a lot about politics, I'm talking about technology, but I also don't want to forget the role that arts play. I mean, it plays such an important role in us as humans formulating ideas, challenging ideas that we have. It obviously gives us the ability to gain purpose in life, and perhaps provide meaning on a more philosophical level, provide meaning through both good and bad times as well. So I think it's such an important cornerstone of our society. So and of course you can define that in many different ways. So yeah, I have a sort of strong philosophical appreciation for it. Am I musically gifted? No. Would I consider myself a great artist? No. Am I creative to some extent? Do I appreciate it? Yes. And so yeah, that would be me.
I love that summary. And as you said, you love new things as well and new opportunities.
Yeah.
So that is a creative mind in itself, I'd say. Often as a creator, you love new things and you want to do more things. So I sense something in you there.
I'm sure there's something there. Yeah. A little bit humble, perhaps.
A little humble, for sure. So what do you see? I notice, I've noticed 2 conflicting conversations going on. In the creative space, in the art space, there is often talk about the fear and the worry and the concern about new technology, and also the fact that it's really getting harder and harder in many ways to monetize. So there's a lot of focus on that. Whereas in the tech industry and on the business side, I hear more and more the importance of defining what it means to be human and to process our emotions, which is actually exactly what the arts do. We help process emotions and we help people understand themselves. So yeah. From your perspective, what are your thoughts on this? And I just wanted to say, I just saw a comment. So hi, Pete. Lovely to see you here. It's actually one of our partners in the UK. So I'll bring you on in a sec, Pete, your comment. But please feel free to answer the question first.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, if you look at like the tech industry, and it's an industry I've been working within for pretty much my whole life. It's always business first. So it's about, how do you create a great company and monetize it and take the product and service to your customers. But yeah, you're right. I mean, right now, if you look at the discussions that are taking place in the context of AI, I led a discussion a month ago on this around skills for the future. Now I think a lot of organizations are thinking about, okay, if like now the ship has sailed with AI, there's a lot of things that are going to be outside of our control. The world's going to change drastically. It already has, but even more so, it's going to change in ways that we can't imagine. And yeah, there's a stronger gravitational pull to figuring out what is sort of the meaning of being a human, and what's the role that we play in our society and in business, and how do we make sure we maintain this level of authenticity and human connection. So yeah, and perhaps as you point out, on the other side, when it comes to the arts, it's always been sort of human first and emotions and a people-driven business. So and perhaps now it's their turn to think more business as well. So what I see in terms of the question, I just see pure opportunity. It might feel overwhelming, all the changes that are going on around us and the abundance of new tools and the shift towards AI and the possibilities that creates. But I think I see just pure opportunity. And I think that it really boils down to this: no matter what you do, no matter what profession you've chosen, you obviously have a passion for it or a strong interest, and you have some type of dream. Now it's about figuring out, I mean, we're all in the same boat now, like I would say. like no one knows what the future is going to hold. No, I mean, we see opportunity. We see opportunity. Sometimes we're trying to figure out, but we don't see it clearly. But it's really about now embracing the technology change and figuring out how can I take what I create and what I'm building to the masses, and let others share more in that. So I think what I see clearly is opportunity of like speed to market, accessing more customers or more followers or more fans, or whatever it might be that that you're chasing. It's never been a better time than now to create a business and ship that, or create a product or service and take that to the market at such a low cost. And 10 years ago, it was much more expensive. I was just on a call last night with someone, and we were talking about all of these ideas that we've been building, and we realized, yeah, if we'd done this 5 or 10 years ago, it would have cost $100,000. But now it's like, less than $1,000 or a few $100s. We can actually create a great product, a great website, ship it like overnight. There's a multitude of channels and audiences to reach that we never saw before or never had access to before.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's what I see as opportunity, and I see it's a level playing field for everyone. But it requires a mindset shift in terms of embracing sort of the change that's going on. That's sort of step one, I would say. And then secondarily, it's about like trying to figure out, like the rest of us, like how do I take market share, or how do I get this out and reach people fast and in a cost efficient way? There's no silver bullet here, but I think it's really about jumping on top of the opportunities that AI and technology are offering us right now, and that will lead to, or give you a greater chance of success.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, it really is a mindset shift. That needs to take place, and especially when you're purpose-driven, you might also be the talent yourself. It can be really hard to monetize. Sometimes I know so many that say, I'm doing a great job for others. I'm able to promote other people, or I'm able to do this for others. I'm like super organized when I work with others, but when it comes to myself, ... I feel that what you're saying is really important, because it's like, how do you stay true to that artistic vision, but how can you build a business structure to support that vision, and to understand also that money actually sustains your mission as a creator. And there is nothing wrong with monetization. There's nothing wrong with building a thriving, successful, vibrant business around your creativity. In fact, it just allows you to do more and be more for more people.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, and business and creative integrity are not in conflict with each other. I mean, so I'll give you an example. I mentioned before that we'd worked with many scale-ups over a number of years, like hundreds of scale-ups, taking them international, like predominantly digital and tech-driven companies. We've been advising and coaching companies through programs. And usually the first question we generally ask all of these founders and their teams, I was like, why did you create this company? Like, what is your dream? So I think that's true. So if I was to ask someone who is an artist, and that would be my question. Like, why are you an artist? Like, what is it that you dream of? Like, how many people do you want to expose your art to? How many pieces do you want to create? Like, what's the legacy, or what's the dream you have? So if you start there, then it becomes so much easier than to figure out, okay, someone said, yeah, I want to, over my lifetime, I want to create, I don't know, 20,000 paintings, and, or whatever it might be, or I want to be in everyone's home. I don't know whatever the dream might be. And then you realize you've only created 5, then you really need to start thinking about, okay, well, how am I going to get to that point where I can fulfill my dream? And usually somewhere in there, there's a business component. It's around, how can I access this many people to make them interested in what I'm creating, so that I can create more of it and then fulfill my dream? So I don't think they're in conflict with each other at all. It's just, but it really starts with what is the dream you have, and how are you going to get there? And they both live together.
Yeah, for sure. And also, some art isn't meant to be commercialized. I really want to stress said for our community here too. We're not saying here in this conversation, because I know I've seen several comments already. So big shout out to everybody who's just showing up, leaning in and commenting. We appreciate that, and we'll bring that into the conversation. I feel with what you're just sharing now, Adrian, is so important, and just for our community to understand that we, like you said, it's not about everything has to be commercial, but it's just that because we know in the arts some things are not meant, you're building and creating from within. You're not doing it for the market, you're doing it because it's your artistic expression. It's just that if you cannot sustain yourself, or if you're dependent upon grants or scholarships or stipends, that is almost like a lottery. You don't know if you will get it. I know many, and that's how it started for me, as you know, with my production company. I decided from day one that I wasn't gonna look for grants or scholarships, because I never knew. You would never know if you would get it or not. And in the end, you would end up paying yourself and planning for something where you didn't know if there was money coming in at the very, very end. So here's about finding ways to monetize what you do, but also make room for the dreams that Adrian just shared. You know, what is it that you want? And also to make room for that within the bigger vision. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm going to bring on Pete's question first, to say hi, Pete. Hi, Pete here from this great adventure in the UK. Hello, Pete. Great to be here, and thanks for sharing your insights. I'd love to hear more about how you navigate the balance between productivity, scalability, and growth and purpose in creative tech industries, especially how this relates to arts and culture innovation, what cultural organizations and their audiences will need, and where this comes into contact and clashes with commercial goals and demands. Huge question. We could spend a whole day answering that. So it means that you are onto something here, Pete. So Adrian, going back to this question then, how do you navigate the balance between, exactly what we talked about, actually, the business side, productivity, scalability, growth on the one hand, but also purpose and that inner artistic need to express yourself?
Yeah, that's a really it's a really great question. Thanks, Pete. That's the challenge, I think, for anyone who's any entrepreneur, anyone who's creating something, is like, you know, finding the context to continue to grow and create and build without being caught up and bogged down in sort of day-to-day product, administrative things, or you talk about productivity, perhaps. Scalability is tricky. It's really you need to, I think, fundamentally, you need to find a context where you can actually invest, you can carve out time to think about scalability and growth. I think that's just like fundamental. So there's a question always around prioritization. If you look at the startup world and startup and scale up world, there's a lot of great books. There's a lot of great people out there who've sort of been talking about this very topic, and there's lots of great anecdotes. So I mean, one of my great colleagues and partners, Ed Galuchak, who runs our advisory business at Epicenter, he talks. He's very good at prioritization. He advises a lot of companies and around the importance of focusing on things that drive. Or he uses like effort and impact matrices to sort of help you map like what things are actually going to give you the biggest impact with the least amount of effort. So on a very minute but very important way of working with these sorts of things is just using that matrix to map things out, and then you can start to figure out, well, what am I going to focus on and what aren't going to focus on. We all get busy very, very quickly. Our list of to-dos get too long, but sometimes you just need to let some of the fires burn and leave some things by the wayside. And if you realize if they're not that important, or if they don't create that much impact, usually you can just let those things go. But so I think mapping that and finding a context just to map everything that you have in front of you or that you're working with right now, doing that on a regular basis is probably really important. But now I would say, if I tie that to AI, this is the great opportunity. So if you can figure out how to become the super worker, which is basically utilizing AI tools to make yourself more efficient in sort of those day-to-day sort of digital mundane tasks, whether it's like following up emails, writing proposals, or whatever it might be. It could be anything. If you can figure out ways to automate those to give yourself the time back to think about growth and scalability, that would be sort of my piece of advice. And I'm actually working on that as I speak. I mean, I'm engaged in a course right now that's ending in a few days. It's been 3 weeks long. The output is that I'm going to have probably about anywhere between sort of 10 and 15 AI agents working for me. It's going to be my virtual colleagues, hoping that I can free up time so that I can think about these things as well, because I struggle with it on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you so much. And speaking of AI agents, let's move into are you okay with me just throwing in some questions here?
Yeah, sure.
I love what you're saying. And I see it says LinkedIn users. So just so you know, for some of you commenting, I might not see your names, but I will still read the question. And here goes. Hi, I'm an entrepreneur in Stockholm taking my first steps into the world of AI and automation. I've recently jumped on the AI train with a strong belief in its potential to transform how businesses operate. Congratulations, you're on something big here. I'm now exploring how to use AI agents and smart workflows to build a more efficient and future-ready company. It is an exciting journey, and I'm learning every day as I integrate these powerful tools in my business. So I'm going to throw to you, Adrian. I recently had a lot of conversations about AI agents, and I actually attended a brilliant event just a few days ago where we talked about AI agents and Serenity, and they were building this platform now, which was actually based here in Sweden. And we had a conversation about AI, the cloud today, and we know several countries are also pulling out now of certain platforms. I won't name names, but it's becoming increasingly important to be independent, to run on your own systems. And with AI agents, if you're working with them, how do you do that? Where are they? What platforms are you using? So since you are an expert in this field, how do you work with AI agents? How did you know where to find them? And also for people who might know what it is, can you explain what is an AI agent?
Yeah. Well, if I start with the last question, what is an AI agent? I mean, it's basically a piece of technology that I think you should consider as your business partner or your colleague. So it's basically, it's a tool that can perform a digital task for you on behalf of you. So think of it as just like, rather than hiring someone, you can spend $20 a month and you've got your own, or whatever the price will be, your own virtual colleague. So consider them as sort of like as colleagues, is how I imagine them, or how I think of them. And so, yeah, how do you decide which ones to use and what to use them for? Well, you need to make it personal to you. So the easiest thing is start thinking through, like, what things do I do that are digital, that take time? So I guess we're all using email. That's one thing. We're all attending meetings, like on daily, perhaps on a daily or weekly basis. There's lots of, maybe we're creating documents, maybe we're researching, maybe we're creating PowerPoints or videos or images, and those things take time. So there's just an abundance of tools out there that can perform those tasks for you, which I think is just like amazing. And so the tricky thing is actually, as you said, is trying to figure out which ones do I use. There are so many, and there are so many more entering the market every day. I'm personally, what I've done is more or less think through, like, yeah, what are the tasks I need to perform? What are then the types of tools I might look for? And then I would generally go and compare the ones that are available. And given that we're using sort of Google Suite, I'm sort of locked in a little bit. Well, not locked in, but I'm choosing to sort of bet a little bit on Gemini and the Google Suite. I think ChatGPT is sort of one of the larger LLMs in the market, are producing more and more tools every day as well. You can't go wrong with those two, but then there's some special ones along the way that you generally find interesting. But the key thing is, like, it really starts with, think through all the things you would do, and think about, like, well, if you were going to hire someone to perform these tasks or help you with these things, like, what then you could start really researching, thinking, well, what tools are out there that could act as that colleague, instead of me investing a few thousand euros a month on a salary, spend $20-30, and you've got this perhaps as good, or if not better, output.
So I have a follow-up question on that one. I attended an AI luncheon. Actually, as we have an AI cluster at Epicenter, and they organized a luncheon. I was there, and we had this highly philosophical conversation. It quickly turned into, what does it mean to be human? What happens when we die? Will these AIs keep on living forever? Will they share my stories? And so that's one thing. But if we then create agents and they continue to live on after we are not here, I mean, I would love to see more conversations. Not only the AIs that we are using right now, but also how do we also train them so that if they live on, which they probably will after we've gone.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. I mean, and
You know what I mean?
yeah, well, for sure. I mean, it's a little bit scary around the possibilities. I mean, does that mean that we live on as well? Because I mean, what you can do, and what I'm actually working right now is, I mean, when you start working with these agents, they start to, you actually work with them in a way where they start to understand you better. I mean, and you're educating them. So my agent that would work for me on following up with emails would be very different to yours, Sofie, or or to yours, Pete. Like it'll just be so there's a level of personalization that comes out with them over time, and we're just at the beginning, so we don't know what in 5 years' time they're going to look drastically different. So yeah, it's a little bit scary and spooky on one level, but then also I'm kind of curious about what that might mean. Maybe that gives people a little bit of meaning when we've passed on. I don't know.
I hope so. And I've been thinking a lot about this lately also, how, since we are now bringing AI more and more into our lives, into our businesses, and they're being trained on the data that they can find. From a business perspective, it means for anybody who's working now, running their own business or being a leader of an organization, that we need to pay attention what's being said about us, where is it being said, and to understand that these LLMs are crawling for public data. So I think we are, also what I would love to talk more about, even after today, is like, okay, but how do we make sure then that our stories are being told, or that they capture the information that we want them to capture? Yeah. I heard that just the other day that ChatGPT are about to allow ads also within their LLM system, which means it's a huge market. And I would urge people to go to Spotify and listen to OpenAI's podcast, to listen to that episode with Sam Altman. Where he talks about this, because there's a huge business opportunity opening up. But having said that, if you can then buy ads, if you can then in that way nudge people in a certain direction, what does it mean for your brand, for your business? But then on the other hand, as you said, also with these agents and living on, what stories do we want to tell about ourselves, for our families, and how do we know what's real and what's not? And that leads us to the next question I have for you, and that is, I'm seeing more and more, and we both know that fake news, you can no longer trust what you see, what you hear, right? Because AI is now becoming so real. And that brings us into community, because so far, because AI makes it impossible almost to see if it's a human or not. But when you meet in person, it is easier. So I would love to hear your take on the digital world and the immersive spaces vis-a-vis an in-person community, and how you see those maybe coexist in a way.
Well, they've been around both have been around for quite a long time, so they're symbiotic, no doubt about that. And I would agree fundamentally that as we look forward, we're certainly going to be, when we're human by nature, and as humans, we're social creatures, and we do want to come together, and we do find meaning through those physical touch points. So I think we're going to crave more and more of those looking forward. Partly as we try to figure out our role, in the face of AI. I think it's a very deep and philosophical question. I'm not shying away from that. I actually believe we need to discuss this. But at the same time, as you point out, we will be striving for a level of authenticity, or serendipity, perhaps, serendipitous type of connection that's authentic, that you're not going to get potentially not going to get with AI. And there's this the physical world is, we live in it, and we value it. We've sort of over the years of many millions of years of evolution, like we've come to sort of appreciate it, and this is our domain. So I think we will crave more and more. And I think that's where also, like, coming back to what I've seen at Epicenter over the last 10 years is that those moments where you bring people together into a room of maybe there's like shared interests, or they're like-minded, or there's something that's united them or brought them together, maybe in an unexpected way. New ideas spark, new businesses get created, new value is created, and relationships are built that you wouldn't expect, and they're very hard to curate. So I mean, just think about, I mean, for anyone who's on the call, think about, you were at a party or at an event, you met someone, they became your best friend for life. Maybe you met your life partner, whatever it might be. It's very hard to curate those things. And so I think like there's always going to be value in these in physical touch points for sure. I mean, and if there's anything that we've learned post-pandemic is that people do crave coming in, do crave seeing one another. They get inspiration from it. We get energy from it. And so I think that's going to become more and more important moving.
Yeah, so it's not an either or; they really do coexist.
Yeah, they coexist. I mean, the digital touch points and using AI for business or for shipping products and services or art, whatever it might be, is here to stay. So, but it's not but it doesn't come at the expense of physical touch points and communities thriving. Operating together.
Yeah, I see that coming more and more within our community, the Arts Dynamics community. Many of the creators that we work with, they notice more and more that in-house, in person is becoming more and more of a premium product too. Let's say the music industry, for instance. We know that streaming platforms, I saw a story the other day where someone used AI and AI bots to create the music, and then they used the AI agents and the bots to drive traffic to those streams, and they made a lot of money from that. Yeah. So we have on the one hand the digital. What my music songwriters and musicians are saying is that they don't make so much money from the digital side now. They make more money from the in-person physical concerts, tours and productions and events, or by having micro communities or micro that grows where people pay them more to get access to them as individuals, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we shouldn't also underestimate the value of just relationships in general. I mean, and strengthening relationships. There's nothing better with seeing someone in person. That trumps doing anything digital for sure. So, we thrive on trust and relationships, and so we need to, I think we'll have to invest more time. And this is the opportunity I see, is that AI can free up so much time for us to actually reinvest in relationships in the physical world, I would say. And
yeah, and Olivia is asking, which AI course did you attend? Thanks.
Good question. I'm happy to give you to send you there, Olivia. Give you a reference. It's called Lead with AI by a company called Flex OS. So I'm more than happy to connect you with Dan, their CEO and co-founder and founder. So so far I've loved it. It's been a real eye opener for me.
That's so cool. We can put it in the show notes as well.
Sure.
And I also noticed that many of the bigger universities, very prestigious ones, are also offering AI courses for free. So there is an abundance of information and courses and training out there. What's lacking often is the clarity and direction, the nurturing and the filtering of information. Not so much that there is information, but rather what kind of information and how to use it. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing. The talk for today, we are talking about the creativity and technology and business. And again, thank you so much for everybody for being so engaged in the comments. We love having this conversation together with you. So I'm curious to find out, and we do actually have a question here from Roland Williams. And Ro, I will get back to you. I haven't forgotten, but that links to something we're going to talk about soon. But first, I would just love to hear from your end, Adrian. Speaking of everything that we're talking about, and as an entrepreneur working in the creative space, the space that we are now building with this creative tech hub and everything, what do you see for the future? What makes you most excited about this partnership that we now have?
I'm really excited. Well, part of it's personal and part of it's business. So if you look at it from a personal perspective, as I mentioned before, I don't think there'll be one person on earth that can't say that they either had never been inspired by a film or a piece of art, or listened to some music, or they saw some great architectural piece or design. It evokes some type of emotion, and we connect with it in some way. And I think it's I as I said, like philosophically and from a societal perspective, we can't lose sight of what actually drives us forward. And I think that so on a personal level, I just I want to go all in on sort of the creative arts. And I think, like, from a technology standpoint, I think this is the moment. And I think we because I believe it's important to society. And from Epicenter's perspective, partly as well, our North Star, why we really created Epicenter, was that we also we created a hub to drive innovation and impact. And that can be an impact, can be certainly one. It could be companies growing, it can be revenue, it can be new jobs created, it can be tax going back into the system, it could be new global exports, no matter what someone's creating. So we can define that any way we like. It's not just about sustainability, it's many different things. So impact for me would be if there was a young aspiring musician who suddenly became a global success, or he or she managed to crack the market that they wanted to go into, and they could share their passion and their music with the world, and we could help facilitate that. That would just be pure joy for me. From a business perspective, look, I think the other thing too is that if you look at some of the stats, I mean, it's overwhelming that creative industries represent, I think I read somewhere that it's going to represent 10% of global GDP by 2030. So it's a huge industry, and it's one that we can't leave behind. So we must invest in it. We must make sure that that aspiring entrepreneurs, let's call it, actually have the toolkits to grow, have the toolkits to actually drive a successful venture, whether that's for profit or not for profit. That they have the right context, they have the right networks, and since we've been building an ecosystem for the past 10 years and strong networks for many different entrepreneurs and large corporates, it only feels natural that we now step into the domain of sort of the creative arts and start supporting companies and individuals in that ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's I remember it started a few years ago when we had our first meetups at Epicenter, and big shout out to Matilda, who actually said yes when I pitched her the idea. I have this idea for a global entrepreneur network, and we are going to pave the way for the next generation of arts. And she's like, okay. So we did that first meetup at Epicenter, and I remember I was terrified. I couldn't sleep the night before, and for people watching that recording, they know I was terrified because I didn't know who would show up. We were doing something brand new. We had artists and we had professionals from the entire ecosystem of the cultural and creative industries, but we also had tech companies, we had businesses, we had corporates, we had investors in the room, everything from NFT, investors to others, and we also had people from the academia. And I knew then that we're onto something big here. But the question is, how the heck do we merge it all? How do we bring it all together? Because many freelancers, I think about 90% in Europe of cultural workers are actually freelancers. So it's like, how do you bridge the gap for them to stay on top of the latest in tech and the next what's coming around the corner, whilst also being freelancers and having to do everything themselves, often with very little revenue to count for it. So what do I want to say with that? We did that, and fast forward till today, now we are shaping up this cluster. And even these past few years, Adrian, we've had so many success stories come out of this community. I've spoken to creatives when they describe themselves, they might have said, oh, I'm just a musician, for instance. But several times it turns out either they are sitting on this huge music tech company startup idea and even securing investments, or stepping up as an artistic leader. I remember one in particular, a lady, a mother who talked about herself as an artist. And then in the end, it turned out that she actually was the leader of an arts residence and could start to work with other residencies in other countries. And suddenly it wasn't her going out chasing work in the midst of the pandemic and everything. It was actually people coming to her because suddenly now she could provide opportunities for others. That is what makes me exciting. So so
that's a classic example of like what what a thriving ecosystem and community looks like. It's not
Yeah.
about necessarily just the artists creating. It's those in the ecosystem around them that can be enablers, that perhaps have access to different audiences, or a driving purpose and impact in different ways. And they need to be sort of homogenous in that way for the ecosystem industry to grow. You need everyone involved. So I think that's what you've managed to build already, Sofie. Congratulations. I think it's really amazing, and it's part of why I'm very excited about what we're now going to do together, and take it to a new level, and make this bigger. So it's really about bringing, despite all the complexity and of technology and all the different people that could be involved, and you just mentioned, like, where do we start? It doesn't really matter. It's about bringing people together right now. So I think the importance of a good community and ecosystem is like putting great minds and like-minded people and smart people and creative people together in rooms in the right context. So we create the stage, but the rest of you create the play. And I think that's sort of our analogy, and we'll support, and a good ecosystem community will support you with the right networks, connections, education programs, advisory, whatever it might be, events, to help you fulfill your dreams. So I think that's our mission. I would say together. So it's more about bringing people together initially to start creating the movement. Who knows where it leads? I mean, we don't know. I mean, just great things come from just putting people together, as I said before.
That is true. And you said something important. You said both commercial and non-commercial, non-profits.
Sure.
That brings also me hope. I know that you think this way, but I think it's good for this audience to hear that too, that you don't have to be super highly profitable and build a multi-million-dollar business. That's not what we're talking about here. It's really about how you can be financially independent, whatever way, shape, or form, what that means for you. Again, so you can sustain the mission. So I guess what we're saying here is also, since this is a starting point now of this collaboration and also the summer series here with Arts Dynamics Talks, is you don't have to be a for-profit organization or company. You don't even have to be a startup or a scale-up. You could be a freelancer and you need help. But you can also go from freelance to startup, or startup to scale up. So we've got programs coming up for that in the future. And I want to highlight one of the amazing community members that we have, and that is Moa. So I just want to do a big shout out to you, Moa. Moa is super supportive. She's working in the field of AI. We've talked a lot about AI today, and dance. So if anyone has questions about AI and dance, you should totally reach out to Moa. But Adrian, moving on, time is flying. I love this conversation. I have a question for you, given the perspective that you have on things and where you are in the midst and in the thick of things. What would you say is next for creative business, tech innovation, cultural entrepreneurship? What global trends, apart from AI, do you see? What does the future look like? What should we pay attention to from your end?
I think there's a lot of different things that we should pay attention to. I think before I say exact trends, I'd say one thing, just general guiding principles, is make sure you look outside of your own sphere. I think that's really important, and see what's happening in other industries. Like what's happening in HR or education, what's happening in Silicon Valley, or what's happening in the automotive industry, or what's happening in other industries. Often a lot of the lessons learned and the pathways, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from them that could apply to your own business and to your own mission. So, I mean, just first and foremost, I would say that. So don't just get caught up in what are the next trends just for our industry. It's also like, remember, you operate in a global society, and lots of other industries have faced similar challenges, even just in a different context. So that'll just be the first thing I would say. I think the one thing to really think about is, and certainly, like, is the question is now is like, you want to really pay attention to the tools. I think that one thing is like bridging the gap between tech tools and creativity. So thinking about like no matter what you're creating now, or how you've created things in the past, there may be better ways to create that moving forward. And we're seeing that in if you just take an example of like web development or building websites, 20 years ago you'd have to go and get like someone to develop the website. 10 years ago, you could probably go onto like different sites like Squarespace and start just using templates. Now you can go onto sites like Lovable, prompt it, and it gives you a website within 2 minutes. So there's the same transition and evolution is happening in the creative space. So you can create videos, imagery, 3D designs with prompts. So I think that's something that doesn't necessarily mean that you lose your creative integrity. But it may be a way to amplify what you're doing. So I think that's sort of just looking at the tools is certainly an obvious one for me. I definitely think that what as you pointed out already, and we've been talking about, is there's a rise of ecosystems and creative hubs. That's definitely happening, and we're obviously sitting right in the middle of that. I think there is also. I read an article just yesterday, actually, in the FT that was talking specifically around governments are now investing more. So if you look at the UK government, I read somewhere that they're investing 380 million-ish pounds into the creative industries, and they're using that. They're aiming to attract, I think, something like 15 billion pounds in investment off the back of that. So there are actually a lot of I think there are going to be more and more investors looking into this industry as well. So that's something that perhaps might not have been an obvious consideration in the past, but now is actually becoming quite real. So I think that's something to consider too. If you've got a great idea, or whether it's for profit or non-profit, there's going to be money out there. There's going to be people out there who are going to be willing to support it and help you realize your dream faster. So those are a couple of things I would say. And as I said, like the industry is growing, no doubt about it. And I think just the key thing would be to keep an eye a little bit on the tools and potential competitors as well. So as you pointed out, who knows we've used a couple of analogies of music. I wouldn't be the only person who have thought this, but I started thinking about, okay, well, who might be the next best-selling artist, but is actually an AI, songwriter and singer or something. I mean, we don't know, but I think that sort of, if you think that way, sort of presents, it challenges the mindset and our own thinking of how you might build.
Yeah, and how to stay relevant as well, because as you said, the next artists, they're already monetizing. We've talked about before on these episodes. There was, I think it was a Spanish influencer model on Instagram that made a lot of money. We see artists doing that. We also see artists share their IP and copyright with AI, like Grimes and others. Yeah. And right now in the cultural and creative industries, there are a lot of conversations around copyright, IP, since a lot of the AI has been trained on our data, and there are lawsuits everywhere right now.
No doubt.
Yeah, so I think this is something, and for information for our community here, we are paying close attention to these things. I just want you to know that we will revisit that conversation about copyright. What does it mean? What should you do? And also we're going to talk more in other episodes about decentralization and how you can add, build on blockchain and add that to, your product suite and everything. But that's a conversation for another day, unless you want to add something on that. Adrian.
No, I think what you're talking around sort of like the ethics of technology and AI now is something that that will be sort of embedded as sort of a cornerstone of any good, strong community and ecosystem too. So whilst we might not have the answers today, I think that to protect and to stay informed, it's always good to be a part of communities like the ones that we're creating because it's something that we're very conscious of. So you're right.
Yeah, thanks. And that leads me to Roland Williams' question. And Ro is asking, he says, great talk. Thank you, Ro. Epicenter has a thriving accelerator program for startups. What is required for our members, creators, musicians, artists, designers to apply? I'm going to answer quickly, Adrian, first, but then I'm going to throw it over to you as well. row? Thank you for that question. It's a great question. That's exactly what we want to build here. We want to build a pathway with this collaboration now to take things to the next level. We have this membership that we're soon opening up the doors for. We already have the first people signing up to the wait list, which is super exciting. So thank you to all of you who've done that. But we're building this pathway to go from freelance, startup, and then to scale up, and to match that with investors. We're already doing it. We've been doing it for a while. So that is nothing new in itself. But what you are talking about, the whole accelerator program, and make it work for us in cult tech or music tech or arts tech. There are some things coming. Can't say too much about that just now, but it's great that you're plugged in the inner circle row, so you will be amongst the first to know when that happens. But on that note, we do have an accelerator program. So Adrian, already at Epicenter. So do you want to share a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've been running programs and advisory for entrepreneurs for many years in different contexts. Sometimes it's one-on-one, other times it's in a program, but usually leads to one-on-one. But yeah, essentially we have a program where we work with companies from all different industries, all different products and services, and really with the purpose of helping them to grow, helping them to figure out how they're going to actually grow their businesses, whether it's locally or abroad, and fulfill their dreams. So it's structured in terms of how we work with companies. We bring people together. There's an element of sort of peer-to-peer work and knowledge knowledge sharing between each other. But a large part usually is it's one-on-one. So you get a coach and an advisor who would actually work with you in a tailor-made fashion. So it's not a one-size-fits-all program. It's very much, there's some common themes, but it's very much tailored to you. So yeah, our mission and our passion is obviously to help other entrepreneurs and their teams grow and fulfill their dreams. So that's we do it through that, opening up our networks, advising in the best way we can as entrepreneurs ourselves. And we won't tell you what to do. We just generally say, if we were you, this is how we would probably approach it, and maybe you should think in these ways. So a lot of it's around sort of just giving you better steering.
Yeah, exactly. And for anyone listening, do sign up to our newsletter. You can find it on our website, artsdynamics.com, because that's where we are going to share information moving forward about the things that we've got planned for you. We can share now that we're opening up the membership, and with it an online academy, and eventually to have separate tracks for freelance and startups and scale-ups, since obviously there are different demands. Or even if you're a leader of an organization, you might have slightly different demands from, some of the other groups. And also, just going back to what you said, Adrian, before about startups and investors, we know in the cultural and creative industries often that we ask for too little money, and often there has been this mismatch between investors and the creators. So we are hoping here, everybody, to bridge that gap too, to figure out how to do that. And a big shout out to Edgar. You mentioned Edgar before. He's the one who, I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for him and his expertise as an advisor. And he asked me to show the pitch deck for this. And oh my God, it was all over the place, but he's been very patient. And things like this, we are going to pass on to you also, how to create a pitch deck, how to pitch for investors and all of it. For those of you that's relevant for, it might not be for everybody, and that's fine too. So Adrian, we're coming to a close. Question number one, in an ideal world, a year from now, where do you see us being with this collaboration?
Yeah. Oh, I think where do I see is quite simple. I would say all the things that you say are surprises and you can't announce yet are all living and breathing products and services. So it would be programs. It would be there'll be loads of events. We'll have a thriving community where people are contributing as well. I think that's, again, this is a platform for everyone else to contribute as well, not just us to deliver. And I would say that we're operating and we have members from all around the world. So this is a global community. This is not one that's local to Sweden. Epicenter, we have our own vision of expansion plans as well. So there will always be a physical place to bring people together, but this will be, global community, thriving community, and it'll be sort of the place where anyone in the creative arts will be thinking and turning to be a member as we try to navigate these new frontiers together.
I love that. And we're even intergalactic. We're actually building out our cultural center on Mars. So we've got some exciting things there too to share with everybody in our creative lab.
Well, now you challenged Epicenter to think about, are we going to open up on Mars in the future? I don't know if we'll be there at some point.
We are already doing it, and it's thanks to Epicenter, because that's where we hosted the first workshop, which led to a hackathon, which has led to some pretty interesting conversations. But again, I can't say too much about that either. Finally, is there anything I have forgotten to ask you, Adrian? Anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would say, as I said, like this, I'm just really excited by this. I mean, we have a strong background and reputation of building great communities. This is something I'm very passionate about. I'm really looking forward to working with everyone, helping people, meeting people, and remember, like, you know, our mission is we're here for you, for the members, and it's really about helping you fulfill your dreams. So that's what drives us. And so, yeah, I'm just very excited by this, and I see huge potential. And it's just such a strategic move, and of great strategic importance to our business as well.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today, Adrian. Thank you to everybody for showing up, and I see. Thank you for a really great and insightful talk. Such a great conversation, says Pete. So thank you for all the wonderful comments. This is exactly what it is about. For those of you who know me from before and who know Adrian Epicenter, you know we are community powered. We are community driven. It's exactly what Adrian says. It's not about, you know, talking to or providing for. It's us actually building and growing this together. So this right here is, I might say, almost like the first like official, hello everybody, we're doing this now, come join us. We are soon opening up the doors to the membership. Just go to artsdynamics.com and sign up to the wait list, and you will be the first to know when we do open up the doors. And inside the membership, as I mentioned, you'll have access to online masterclasses, tools and resources from top experts in their fields. You've got the creative lab, which is also, there are some exciting things happening there, and other things like, yes, I said we can't really share right now, but it will happen. So with that, you are most welcome back again next week. Like I said, we're going to do this every Thursday now throughout the summer. Next week, I'm going to speak with Hanna Lindestål. She's a cybersecurity expert, and she knows about espionage and all those exciting and frightening things. And for us in the cultural space, this is important because often culture, arts, music, it shapes our identity as a nation. And we know that during war and in times of conflict, often arts and culture is what they're going after first. Also, there was just the other day a huge worldwide security breach where passwords were leaked and all the information and data. We talked a lot about AI today. So I really also want to invite you to join us back next Thursday. Just where you found this link, you just go back to LinkedIn or YouTube, and we'll post in our meetup.com group as well for with more information. So if you have any questions for Hanna, let us know. Let's keep the conversation going. Adrian, this is exciting. Looking forward.
It is. Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone that joined today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah.
Say again, sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity for having me as well.
Yeah, it's been a blast. So thank you, everybody. Over and out.